I think right now the overall sentiment is just a fear of these kinds of hate crimes happening to us, especially Muslims who are more visibly Muslims, such as women who cover their hair. Even with myself, I mean, I spent 5 years wearing the headscarf and recently chose to stop just because I feared for my own safety. And I know that there's a lot of other women who've done the same and feel the same way.
So they come in and punch you again. Good. Don't close your eyes. You can't close your eyes. Okay? Just relax.
Self-defense trainer Asa Muller urges Marwa to quickly throw one punch after another. They're in a jiu-jitsu studio in Fountain Valley, California, where other students are practicing. A large American flag on the wall dominates the room, and beneath it, a sheen of sweat covers the black mats. A class like this was never in Marwa's plans, but things change.
With the different things that have been happening after his election, the fears are definitely a lot more heightened. So yeah, I don't think I probably wouldn't have considered taking a self-defense class before his presidency.
Marwa has only signed up for one class, so Coach Asa has boiled everything down to the most important self-defense strategy. Whenever possible, put as much distance as you can between you and your assailant.
So now move right. Don't chase me. You're not fighting me. Remember, you're calm. You're circling. You don't chase me. I'm going to come after you. That's it. You keep your distance. Good. Okay.
She gets the principle, so he moves on to a more dangerous scenario. He tells her that a car has pulled up alongside her, someone has jumped out and thrown her into the back seat.
I'm driving in a car, okay? So now what I want you to do is do what they call a rear naked choke to me. Okay, I'm a big 250-pound guy, and I want you to try to choke for real. And if I tap you, let go. Don't make me pass out, okay?
He tells her to wrap the inside of her crooked right elbow around his neck, use her right arm like a bar, then to grab her right wrist with her left hand to pull him towards her chest with all her might.
So you grab, so your hands comes up, your bicep comes like this. Hand behind, you're gonna have hard, you have short arms, and I got a big fat head. So you have to really mean it, and you have to squeeze hard.
He explains that even though choking a driver of a moving vehicle can cause a serious crash, that outcome is better than the alternative if she does nothing. Once Marwa makes Coach Asa tap out a few times, he moves on to the most serious scenario of the class.
Now you get to the ground, okay? So now, worst case scenario for you, okay? You're on your back, and now someone's trying to get between your legs. Not good for you. And I'm sweaty, nasty, but you're gonna have to deal with it because I'm trying to rape you, okay?
During the exercise, he lunges at her and tries to pry her knees open. She's learned to bend her knees as he moves in, and she thrusts her feet at his shoulders. She does this so forcibly that he actually tumbles backwards. Earlier, he taught her that if she puts her feet too low on the assailant's torso, she could cause him to fall forward.
So I come forward, you kick, that's it. Come on, kick like you mean it. Let's go. Kick harder, that's it.
For any woman, having a 250-pound man lunge at you, even in a training exercise, can be challenging. Because Marwa has grown up in a Muslim household, I imagine that it is even more challenging due to the social norms of male and female interaction in Islamic culture. But Marwa leaves the class feeling confident and pumped.
I didn't have a problem with it. I wasn't uncomfortable. I think the more real these classes are and these lessons are, the more accurate I can understand how to defend. It was very clear how tough it can be to resist.
For the California Report, I'm Pasha Zulfagari in Los Angeles.
Sarah Schaefer is in the back of an East Hollywood pizza parlor, test driving her material before she takes it out on the road. She has long brown hair and she's wearing her signature large frame glasses. It's a small gig, just a dozen or so people.
Please give it up for Sarah Schaefer!
She's figuring out how to work what's going on politically into her material without isolating people. The election really worked her up.
I legitimately saw my therapist do a little victory dance during therapy recently because I was like, I think people are having like total mental breakdowns. Like they're so anxious about all the news. And she was just like, great for business. She did a little dance and I was like, oh, this is fucked up. Like,
generally, I don't go deep into politics, but I will say since the election, I have felt not only a responsibility to figure out how to talk about what the world is like right now, but also it's my only option because it's all I think about.
Sarah is mostly known for a show she had on MTV called Nikki and Sarah Live. She's now a writer for a new Comedy Central show called Problematic. This time of the year, she's leaving almost every weekend, traveling to more than a dozen colleges all over the U.S., from rural or conservative small towns to large universities. She feels this is an opportunity to reach an important group.
They're going to be a big, powerful block of change, and they can, if they equip themselves, they can potentially save us from some of this craziness that we're in.
Her comedy is usually observational, about sexism, something she saw on TV, an embarrassing moment, stuff like that. Going in on Trump, a guy that maybe some of these students voted for, well, it makes her a little nervous. At the University of Minnesota in Minneapolis, she decides to tackle Trump voters, something she veered away from before. She works on it in the green room first.
Let me just actually say it out loud really quick. So, all these articles about understanding who the Trump voter is, what are their dreams? What are their hopes?
Then she takes a deep breath, steps out on stage, looks at all the young, fresh faces, and jumps in.
We need to know their feelings. We need to understand their fears, their hopes, their special needs.
And I 100% think that communication and face-to-face contact, like kissing and licking and things like that, empathy, are all the ways that we're going to get through this mess, The polarized sides need to come together. We do need to talk.
She senses they're with her.
Just because you voted for Trump doesn't mean you're a racist. You might also be a sexist. It's just something to think about.
For the most part, her jokes aren't so on the nose with her political beliefs. They're more subtle, relatable.
We're also in the age of conspiracy theories. It's the golden age of those. Most of you probably know somebody in your life that is like a hardcore conspiracy theorist. Usually it's like a random uncle or aunt that sends you email forwards and you're just like, what the f*** is this shit? Or at Thanksgiving, they start talking, oh yeah, the frogs are turning gay. I read it, the frogs are turning gay, the frogs are turning gay, and everyone's like, shut up, Uncle John. No, actually now Uncle John is the national security advisor, so I don't know how this happened, but I guess.
Folks might have assumptions about a comic coming from LA, but whether Sarah's performing in an auditorium at the University of Wisconsin or a cafeteria in a small school in Wyoming, she doesn't feel out of place. But she isn't from LA originally. She grew up in a family of 6 in Richmond, Virginia. Her parents were conservative, raised them Southern Baptist.
I don't know, maybe I'm like this because I am very serious about the principles of Christianity, which is you truly have to love everyone as yourself. You truly have to be forgiving. You have to give the shirt off your back. Those are, to me, the fundamentals of Christianity, and those are extremely liberal principles.
As Schaefer puts it, she's getting paid to entertain. It's a bonus if she can get people to reflect.
Who here is already just ready for it to be over? Who here? I'm not talking about the year, I'm talking about all of it. Who here is just ready for it to be over? I am ready for the end. Take me in the first wave. Mama's tired. I don't want to fight. I'll lay down and take the apocalypse. I am ready. I don't want to forage. I don't want to go on supply runs.
There's nothing like the apocalypse to bring a room together.
I have thought this through. I am done.
In Los Angeles, I'm Joanna Clay. Sarah Schaefer.
Have you seen these commercials for tiny pieces of chocolate for women?
Olive is parked in front of a coffee shop and grocery store miles away from her home. She is tall but unassuming, with short chestnut brown hair and floppy bangs.
Oh, so I'm taking off my pants.
She's here to change into a skirt, a fitting top, and a jean jacket. Olive calls herself the vampire trans because she dresses as male during the day, but at night...
I'm just going to change into my skirt first. It's like a super short skirt and I have long hairy legs. So yeah, I just throw this back there into the abyss. Put my seat back so I have some space. And then yeah, I just slip it on. and freedom.
She doesn't dress as a girl at home. She doesn't go by Olive there either. She chose the name Olive partly because she used to imagine herself go-go dancing in olive-colored clothing. But at home, she goes by her old name, Richard. She lives with her mother, who is from Romania, and her father from Israel. Both are in their mid-60s.
The transgender, that is ridiculous for me.
That's Olive's mom. They often fight about Olive's identity. But there are days, like today, that they'll spend time together. They're making Olive's favorite comfort food for breakfast.
Now, mix it, everything together.
It's a Romanian dish, sweet meatballs.
Last time we did.
It doesn't matter what, we love him, But we don't like what he's doing, actually, what direction he chose in life. So we are very worried about him. So what's your response on this?
I feel okay. I feel like you don't see what my life's like, and
No, I don't.
I
don't agree.
and I don't think you will ever really see much of it because we don't agree on how I should live my own life.
It's something the end of the world. Even the president is against, and everybody's against.
Olive's parents are big Trump supporters. Olive can't stand him.
I remember right as he got elected, both my parents were screaming and shouting like, "Woo, woo, yeah, go Trump, woohoo, woohoo." They're just like, "Ha, ha, ha." They were like pointing at me like, "Ha, ha, we won."
The next time we meet, we're at a diner. And Olive tells me how she explores her female identity outside of the house.
I wore like a bra with kind of like slip-in boobs for the first time.
Olive says what worries her now is how to get her parents to accept that she identifies as a woman. She says the conversation she had with her mom while they were cooking meatballs left her feeling depressed.
It wasn't like something new. It was just like a bigger reminder that I really need to move out.
Olive is trying to save up money to leave her parents' house. She has a degree in film, and she eventually wants to be a cinematographer. For now, she works as a production assistant on a TV show. A week or so goes by after our chat at the diner. Olive seems to be ignoring my text. But then, Olive gives me a call.
Me and my parents got into a really, really big fight around like Sunday and then Monday. It's very dramatic. It's kind of like a lot of pent-up energy.
Olive and I meet up to talk about it. She says during the fight, her mother said she just couldn't deal with the transition anymore. Her mother wanted to commit suicide.
I was thinking about her killing herself, and then I was thinking about just me killing myself. It was like, it was like, who's going first?
Olive tells me that around the time Trump got elected, she seriously considered killing herself.
And then, they were just kind of upsetting the energy in the house, and then I was just in a lot of pain. I decided that I didn't want to deal with it anymore.
She knew of a bridge that she used to go to with her dad. It's on the LA River, near a bike path.
Yeah, I just kind of like left my house one night when it was just like too much, and I drove there. I got there. And then my friend called me. It just kind of was like, okay, I'll do this later.
A few months after Olive planned to kill herself, Trump rolled back protections for transgender students in public schools. Olive is speaking about it with her dad, a hefty man with black hair and a receding hairline. At one point in the conversation, Olive brings up suicide.
You don't like hearing that, right?
What?
That trans kids kill themselves?
Well, I always believed that trans is a mental problem. I don't get it. I don't get it. For me, it's disgusting. disgusting.
Olive says she's heard comments like this from her parents so many times. As she gets into her car to leave her house, Olive says she tries to let the words run right through her.
Because they're not trying to hurt me. So, and I don't need to feel hurt by that.
She says this fight with her father is a little easier than the ones before.
We're fighting less these days. Well, it's not as bad now. It's like calmer.
Partly because the fighting takes so much out of them. They feel spent. Weirdly, even though both parents so thoroughly reject Olive's gender identity, she wants to take care of them. She can't remember a time when they weren't struggling with depression. Olive is an only child, and even as a teenager, she worried about her parents' health and their ability to navigate old age.
Well, like I was responsible for them. Like they were my kids. Sometimes it still feels like that.
For now, taking care of them still means hiding her identity, at least while she still lives with them. In the parking lot where she changes into her skirt and blouse, Olive puts on her makeup. She dodges her stubble as she outlines her lips in red. She says she loves the name of her lipstick.
It's called Rage. The intensity of it is nice because it makes it feel more like I guess like a mask, but more like, rather than a mask, like armor. It's like armor on my lips. Where I just feel a little stronger for some reason.
Her goal is to move out of her parents' house by the end of the summer. Then, she wants to explore dressing as Olive full-time. For Annenberg Media, I'm Renee Gross.
Before the election, Jacob the Horse sounded like this.
I promise I can make things right. If you only let me stay the night.
Yeah, the first record is not political at all.
Yeah, it's a lot of rock songs about girls.
What else am I gonna write about? Except for like being bummed out about girls.
After November 8th, though, the band's rage came pouring out.
Then I scream until got nowhere left to scream. I pray for Edward Murrow.
We had a rehearsal right after the election results and immediately said, okay, let's write a song about how angry we are. And we were all on the same page immediately.
Aviv Rubenstein is the band's lead singer. He's Jewish, though he never really connected with his Jewish heritage growing up.
Both my parents are Israeli immigrants, so I grew up in like a relatively Jewish town. A good portion of the kids were Jewish, but I didn't feel the same as them. I desperately wanted to be like American. I wasn't ever like Jewish first.
But since President Trump's election, attacks on synagogues have spiked. And on International Holocaust Day, Trump failed to acknowledge the death of 6 million Jews. And then Sean Spicer said this.
We didn't use chemical weapons in World War II. You know, you had someone as despicable as Hitler who didn't even sink to using chemical weapons.
To someone like Aviv, whose grandparents survived the Holocaust, it was time to take a stand.
This is awesome. Thank you so much for coming.
It's the night of Jacob the Horse's album release party, and Aviv wears a half-dollar-sized pale gold Star of David. This is the same star European Jews were forced to wear during the Holocaust.
I think it's a more thoughtful form of protest than just wearing a shirt that says like, go to hell, Trump, or whatever. And it also is like a reminder for me of like, I wouldn't have had an option not to wear one 60 or 70 years ago.
Although the tiny star blends into Aviv's dark denim jacket, some fans noticed it, like Michael Epstein.
You know, I feel empowered, encouraged, and not afraid to do the same sort of thing.
The other members of Jacob the Horse wanted to get more political too. Lead guitarist Josh Fleury worries about the effect Trump's policies could have on his Taiwanese immigrant mother.
It's kind of been tough for me to think about how, you know, if a man like Trump was president, back when my mom tried to move out here, she may not have been able to come out here at all, and then like I may not have had the life I had.
As they play, brows furrowed and strumming intensely, The musicians radiate the heat of their new fiery style. This is the rock and roll battle cry, Dead by 45.
Well, he's the 45th president, and he's going to kill us. We'll all be dead. The song starts very fatalistic. I'm a fool now that it's over, but all will be okay. Because when they drop the big one, we'll all be orange anyway.
And forever, if you're tired every day.
Because when you're stupid, that's the punishment you pay. The people that were positive he wouldn't win are dumb, and the people that voted for him are dumb. It's like, oh, we're screwed, but here we go. I feel fine, because we'll be dead by 45. And if some kike from California can sing about it, then baby, so can I.
For Jacob the Horse, the fight doesn't end with Dead by 45. The song is both a warning and a call to action for people who are frustrated and angry with Donald Trump. For the California Report, I'm Ashley Eady in Los Angeles.
The sanctuary movement began in the 80s in support of Central Americans fleeing civil wars in their countries. Now the rights of immigrants are under attack. Today in our first 100-day series, we meet a Methodist pastor from the San Fernando Valley who is transforming his church into a sanctuary for undocumented immigrants from Latin America. Melanie Gonzalez reports. It is 6 a.m. on a Sunday morning. Reverend Fred Morris is holding a Spanish service, preaching to about 10 people at the Mission of the United Methodist Church in North Hills. 10 people sit in long pews inside the tiny church. He begins by praying for what is happening in this country.
Santo Padre, llegamos aquí en tu casa con nuestros corazones en angustia por lo que está pasando en nuestro país.
His parishioners are wearing jeans, sweatshirts, and tired looks on their faces. Reverend Morris asks if any parishioners have a prayer they want to share. A woman raises her hand, asking everyone to join in prayer. She wants to remain anonymous. She's worried about deportation splitting up her family. She is a regular at the church and has 2 teenage children. I want each and every one of us to pray about these harmful laws and what is happening in our community, and especially for our president who is causing a lot of pain in our Latino community and the deportations he is carrying out. Let's pray for those who in 3 hours are already in Tijuana, Mexico, and that if one of us is in trouble, let us go out and help them.
The Bible is very clear that we have a mandated obligation from God to welcome the immigrant, to treat them as a family member, not to persecute them or reject.
When he is not wearing pastor robes for Mass, Reverend Morris wears a brown cowboy hat and a poncho as his everyday streetwear. Before opening the Refugee Welcome Program, he lived in Brazil, where he was tortured in 1974 under the Brazilian dictatorship and then deported back to the United States. Reverend Morris comes from a family of Methodist pastors. Now, He is determined to watch after his flock and chides his parishioners when they are late to Mass. In the 80s, many of the undocumented who were deported back to Central America were often tortured, murdered, or disappeared. Under the new administration, many people now face that same threat. The Refugee Welcome Program here at Morris's Church provides attorneys for unaccompanied minors to help fight their deportation cases. Of 110 youth in the center, 82 have so-called low bono attorneys who charge around $3,000 per case. Most of these youth come from El Salvador, Guatemala, and Honduras. Morris says these children come alone because it is a matter of life or death.
A woman in Honduras said that her 10-year-old son was approached by the local gang. Said, "We're going to give you a gun. We want you to go and to kill the local baker to show how brave you are." He told his mother, who immediately took steps to get him out of the country because she didn't want him to become a gang member and a murderer or be murdered by the gang. And so she paid a coyote $6,000 to transport this 10-year-old child to the States.
Without legal help, Morris says many of the children are deported back home.
10-year-old kid going to court, not speaking English, not even knowing what's going on, not knowing what they're supposed to do, not knowing the procedures, not having filled out any of the paperwork because they don't even know how. They get deported back if they don't have an attorney. And in all too many cases, when they return, they're murdered by the gang they were fleeing in the first place.
Morris says his parishioners are too afraid to have their voice heard on the radio, even when I said they could remain anonymous.
It's too risky for them.
Churchgoers hanging around outside the church also declined to speak. I approached a man who was listening to music and looking up driving directions on his phone, as well as a woman walking out of the church. She says repeatedly that she can't talk.
No, es que yo no tengo nada que ver con eso.
Pero después podemos hablar cuando tiene tiempo.
No puedo.
Morris says some of the children have stopped going to school for fear of the ICE raids. Though schools and churches are safe spaces, his parishioners do not believe that they are safe. He pledges to protect his parishioners by providing them with shelter inside the church, no matter what.
We are preparing ourselves to be ready to receive 20, 30, 40 people here in the church property if it becomes necessary. We have this gymnasium, we have a hotel-sized kitchen, we have wonderful bathrooms with showers, we have all of the physical conditions to have people camp out here if they need to, except we don't have beds for them.
Church volunteer, who also wants to remain anonymous, gives me a quick tour of these facilities.
Okay, that's a strong door.
Many of his parishioners have told him about the effects of the recent ICE raids on their lives.
They can't sleep at night because they're worried that ICE is going to be pounding on their door at any minute. They're afraid to let their kids go to school because maybe they won't be home when the kids come home from school.
Though the recent administration's immigration policies have caused a wave of panic in Los Angeles' undocumented communities, Morris is certain that he will keep fighting for them. For the California Report, this is Melanie Gonzalez.
Some of my fondest memories of being a young kid is reloading rounds with my grandfather and then doing some shooting with my dad, like skeet shooting.
Adam Vondersar loves guns. Their smell reminds him of his childhood. He likes to come out on crisp, wet mornings to this shooting range buried in the hills outside Santa Clarita. Adam is a pretty good shot. He's a straight shooter in conversation, too. He supports the Second Amendment. He thinks necessities like healthcare and energy should be free. And he identifies as libertarian.
It basically means just leave people alone and live them and let be. And the government has no business deciding what people can and can't do within their personal lives.
Most of the time, he and his wife Melanie vote Republican. But unlike some conservatives, they don't think religion has any place in politics. They're against Republicans' focus on issues like abortion and gay marriage.
The Republicans like to identify as, God-fearing Christians, and we're not. Both of us are atheists.
I'm not popular on with my Democrat friends or my Republican friends is I hate religion with like a passion. It's just nonsense to me.
This election cycle, he picked Donald Trump.
For maximum chaos. I want him to go in and wreck the establishment. I mean, the Republicans don't like him. The Democrats definitely don't like him. Like, both teams need to be gutted.
Maximum chaos. It sounds like a phrase you'd hear in a punk rock song, which makes sense because Adam used to play guitar in a punk band.
There was several little bands, that they had, like Minded, I think was the first one, and then, the Purple Monkey's Dishwasher or something like that.
His mom, Angel, lives across the street. She's curled up on his couch doing that thing all moms do, bragging about her kid.
You played at the Roxy. He played downtown LA, like we're Led Zeppelin. I was in there. I'm like, and Adam, Led Zeppelin, Robert Plant, all of them used to play here.
That was with Icarus, his most successful band. They played the Warped Tour Festival and a bunch of clubs in Hollywood. In high school, music and sports kept him going. He was the punk rock jock, the captain of the football team with the blue mohawk. His anti-establishment tendencies started around this time, too.
I decided to do an experiment with chemicals in a toilet, messing around with elemental sodium. Reacts a little violently with water. It just causes like little explosions.
He couldn't have picked a worse day for this prank. It was April 20th, 1999.
Joining us, this is being called one of the worst school shootings in our nation, and SWAT teams are still sweeping Columbine High School looking for more explosives.
With the country on edge from the Columbine High School shootings in Colorado, the response at his campus near Lancaster was escalating fast.
So it's like SWAT team, hazmat, like just so many fire trucks, cops like roll in, evacuate the school. It was just bad.
Adam and his friends were too freaked out to come clean, so they kept quiet. A month later, a classmate turned them in, and that's when things got really bad.
There was a group of us, right? And they picked like the 2 German last name kids, like super white kids, and like you're part of the trench coat mafia. I'm like, what, dude? What is this, man? We were just messing around, and like the cops lied. Oh man, I got shafted so hard. They made an example of me.
He got expelled, wound up in juvenile hall, and went to a continuation school. The experience made him lose faith in institutions, taught him to rely on himself. As an adult, self-reliance means planning for every contingency.
Let's just say it's just a preparedness level for maximum chaos.
Turns out he's part of a survivalist group.
It does sound funny when you talk about it, because it is a little like weird, those crazy prepper people, but it's just insurance.
He won't say how many people are in the group. They don't recruit openly.
We have storage container with water and food and things like that. So we like learn all the CPR and how to do tourniquets. And then we have like rally points where we can meet when the services go out, so we can pool our resources and survive until, whatever.
He isn't sure all this will play out in his lifetime. But he says, like all empires, the American system will eventually fail. Maximum chaos will be inevitable.
No, it's going to happen. There'll be a period of bad things. Or there could just be an implosion. That would suck, but that's human nature, the survival of the fittest. The people who are prepared and all that will make it through. That's how we founded the country.
This all sounds pretty dark, and that's what's confusing. Adam isn't a dark guy. He's even kind of funny.
You can't do anything without paying a tax or getting a license for it. You have to go through like, if the crown pleases, may I drive my vehicle?
Some of Adam's ideas sound pretty wacky to his family. Most of them are liberal. But his cousin, Melissa Brand, has figured out how to deal with it.
I did unfollow him, so I don't see it on my newsfeed anymore. Every once in a while, I'll go check on his page, see what he's doing and stuff.
She grew up with Adam, and they're still close. So the cousins mostly avoid talking about things like maximum chaos.
He's still family, and I love him. We keep it peaceful.
For now, Adam is focused on a different kind of chaos. He and his wife Melanie are expecting a baby any day now. They still need to pick a name.
That's a contentious issue.
Yeah.
I prefer the name Charlie, but Adam doesn't like it.
I've been trying to go for Werner, but we'll see.
In the meantime, he's got to clear the extra ammo and the gun safe out of the nursery. He wants to paint it baby blue. For the California Report, I'm Jenny Lauer in Santa Clarita.